Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will, Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Freaky Friday on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, joined by the golden voice of Sterling Holmes, and of course, producer extraordinaire Richard, always making us look good. Sterling, it's Friday. How the hell are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm excited. It's Friday, baby. We survived the storms here in Kansas City. There was a bleep ton of rain. Had no idea it was going to rain. And I had the doors off of my Jeep, and I'm a psycho who had to go outside and put said doors on the Jeep in pouring rain. Got them on. It was dark outside, so I couldn't really see very well, but I got them on. And so now that they're on, of course, it's supposed to be nice for the next week or two. But at least I didn't get my car flooded. So I have that going for me, which is nice. That
was clutch. Honestly, man, after spending 4 years in Alabama and tornado country and a lot of rain, I have like forgotten what changes of weather look like here in Los Angeles. It is just like, I don't know, 70 or 80 every day, might get down to 60 at night. It is Groundhog Day, always the same. I'm shocked if there's even a little sprinkle. It's kind of weird. No complaints though. I mean, you can't
give me
complain.
100 and sunny. I want to live a little. Let me feel something. Let me have some random pop-up storms that might ruin my car. Come on, live a little best.
Well, you know, tornado country. Before that, I was in Austin. Sometimes you get like 105-degree weather for like 10 days in a row. So I feel like I got all that out of my system. I grew up in Missouri where it's cold and slushy and icy during the winters. You know what a roller coaster Missouri and Kansas are. One day you get 20 degrees. The next day you get 80 and you're like, what the hell is this?
Oh, now I could get lectured by a West Coast elite. Come on now.
Oh boy. So it has been quite the week for Chiefs lingering questions. We came into the week with some huge lingering questions. Those questions have since been answered. We know what the fate of both Rashee Rice and Trey Smith are now. And that's given me some relief. I think we can dig a little deeper now that we have a little bit more information. Don't you think so, Sterling?
Yeah, of course.
So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to answer some hot questions about the wide receiver core and also the offensive line. But before we get into all of that, we've got a little bit of business to take care of.
Yeah, that is factor. We're talking about it. Summer's here. More sun, more light, more things, and time to do the stuff that you want to do that help make summer so special. The number one thing you don't want to be doing all summer, I know if you're me, I don't want to be spending hours cooking inside. And that's where Factor comes in. Factor chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. They arrive fresh, fast, ready to eat. It's perfect for any active lifestyle over summer or beyond. They have 45 weekly menu options. You can pick gourmet meals that fit your summer gains and goals. Choose from options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and much, much more. Enjoy more this summer. Get Factor if you want all the flavor and none of the fuss. I've talked many times about this. I'm a huge fan of Factor. The one time I forgot it for lunch, I was sad. It was destitute. I was angry, and I'm like, where the bleep is my Factor? And I realized I left it at my house. So I'm there at the radio station until 2 o'clock without food. I became angry. Bad takes flew from my mouth. But when I have Factor, only good things happen. Love Factor, and you will too. It honestly is absolutely delicious. It's not like your typical frozen meals that you get that you're like, I'm just going to eat it because it's semi-healthy and I have to eat something. Factor, you will enjoy eating. That is something that I promise. I can't guarantee anything. I don't have that power, but at least I guarantee that I like it. So there you go. Get started at factormeals.com/arrowhead50off and use code arrowhead50off to get 50% off plus free shipping in your first box. That's code arrowhead50off at factorsmeal.com/arrowhead50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/arrowhead50off.
Factor meals could be really helpful. For instance, if you just went to a Coldplay concert and had your personal life shattered and you don't want to leave the house, you can get all your meals right at home from Factor. Very useful.
And it won't be cold. It'll be a hot play.
The dad jokes are raining. Did you see this deal with the Coldplay thing?
Yeah, like, one, don't cheat. Two, if you're going to, if he's a CEO of my company, okay, and that's my head of HR, I don't know if I want to work. I don't want to work for them. My CEO is that oblivious, and my HR lady is that oblivious. Ooh, man, you got more issues. That's a bad businessman right there. Bad businessman. Okay, that's all I'm saying. You know what's going on. You know what's happening. You can't let that happen. No, out. You can't make that many bad choices. It's like when the guy prank called Shadur Sanders. One, don't do it. You're an idiot. Don't prank call him. But two, if you're gonna do it, at least be funny. Like, at least be clever, right? Like,
yeah.
You can't split this bad. Head of HR. Like, what? How's that conversation go down? Head of HR. Yeah, step into my office. We have you on video doing something inappropriate with a coworker. Yeah, it's you. How does that transpire? It's gonna be a fun HR conversation. You think he walked in today and they're playing yellow? You think all of his, he walks in, head of finance, playing yellow?
Yeah, it's going to be a bit on edge at that workplace for a while. But the rest of the employees, they have a little leverage, and not exactly Don Draper, that guy.
No.
So if you think your week is bad or has been bad, it hasn't been as bad as that guy. For a couple Chiefs, one, the week has been life-changing, including generational wealth. For another, in Rashee Rice, it's more like things could have been worse, right? I think he does have to spend 30 days in jail. I don't know when that's going to happen. It sounds like he can at least choose. And he's on thin ice for the next 5 years in terms of probation, but he could be Henry Ruggs, the situation could have been much worse. So Rashee Rice, I'm thinking, is going to be suspended at least a month. I know that the Chiefs Matt Derrick reported that they're thinking 2 to 4 weeks. I would be pretty shocked if it was 2 weeks. Wouldn't you?
Talked with Matt today. He said the Chiefs were hoping for 2, expecting 4, and preparing for 6.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I would brace for 6. I don't think, based on the history of how the NFL treated the Patriots and has treated the Chiefs a little bit, you don't want to be seen as going light on a dynasty. I think that might be a consideration here. So I'm kind of expecting 6. You?
Probably 4 to 6.
Okay.
I think if it's 2 or 8, I think I'd be shocked. I would expect 4 to 6. And I don't know. We'll see what Addison gets. Addison had 2 different ones where he was like 140 and a 55. He went, I think, 140 and a 55, and then a year later got a DWI. So we'll see what he gets suspended for. 'Cause, I mean, again, don't be a dumbass. Don't do dumb things. But at least Rashee Rice did one dumb thing. Now it was a culmination of a lot of dumb things and one specific doing this to begin with. I mean, yes. But Addison did 2 dumb things. How does the NFL view those separately? Rashee got lucky. No one people got injured, but no one passed away. We'll find out. I'd expect, again, my personal opinion is probably 4 to 6.
It's always receivers too. They're the Ricky Bobby. They like to go fast. I wish they would just keep that speed on the field and not in their vehicles. Hopefully we can get to that point with some of these cautionary tales. Let's start off with Rashee Rice and the receiving core. Today's segment is 10 Flamin Hot Questions.
So when you say psychosomatic, you mean like he could start a fire with his thoughts?
So, like we said, Rashee Rice is likely to be suspended for a significant chunk of time, presumably at the start of the season. Can the Chiefs survive that brutal opening stretch above 500? I'll give you the first 6 games in order. Like we said, we don't know if it's 2, 4, 6, but it's going to be somewhere in there. So the Chiefs start off the season with the Chargers in Brazil. They get the Eagles at home, the Giants on the road, the Ravens at home, the Jaguars on the road, and then the Lions at home. What I like about that schedule is you get the easier teams away and the more difficult opponents at home. But Sterling, can they come out of that stretch 4-2, 3-3 at the worst?
I mean, yeah, they did last year. Now, this is a tough stretch, obviously. No denying that. I don't always love the first game being overseas. I don't think that's I don't take much away from that game. Win or lose, I just don't. It was like last year with the Packers and the Eagles. I said I don't take anything away from that game. You just can't because of the field conditions. You don't know. Everything's so wonky in that regard. They can because they didn't have Rashee Rice for 13 of the final regular season games that year, right? He played in 3.5, 3.25, whatever it was. So yes, they can totally survive. It's a bummer. Obviously, we did not know if this was going to happen until next year. We really had no idea when the suspension was going to come down. The lawyer kept everything under wraps. At least now we know. I'm fine with that. Again, it seems like as far as the actual sentencing as well, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. I think it's fair. Like I think that, yeah, he's going to get something. He's going to get 5 years probation and 30 days in jail. You did something dumb, but he's owned up to it. And they talked about it, how he had been up front and owned up, and he wants to make everyone whole, and he understands what he's done wrong. But yeah, as far as on the field, I think the Chiefs can, especially now that they know. If this would have came down, 5 days before the season starts, and they plan on Rashee Rice being there, oh bleep, that's a different story. But you now have all training camp to understand that, yeah, he's probably going to miss the first 4 to 6 weeks. We can plan for that.
Even playing the contrarian or devil's advocate here, if they were to start under 500, think back to 2021 when they started 1-3 and then and then they had to right the ship. They've been here before. They've been in tough stretches. The bummer for me is the Eagles. There's a huge score to settle there with all the belt to ass stuff, just ad nauseum. They have the bragging rights. They're going to use them. But the Chiefs have circled that game. Of course, beating the Eagles in September isn't going to even the score from last Super Bowl. Although I will say the score actually is even, Eagles fans. It's one Super Bowl to one Super Bowl. It doesn't matter what those final scores were. All that matters is whether you get the Lombardi trophy or not. So that's a little bit of a bummer. And also you catch the Lions with 2 new coordinators fairly early in the season. You'd like to have your best offensive skill player. That's not going to happen, but I just definitely think they're going to beat the Chargers, the Giants, and the Jaguars. That will get them to 3-3. In Brazil, I just want them to make it out of that game unscathed health-wise. That's the important thing to me. Opening weekend with
always my thought conditions. You go other countries. Be healthy.
Number 2, Andy Reid is notorious for slow-playing rookie receivers. How much will he use Rashee Rice clone Jalen Royals to fill in for his suspended star? A couple notes here before we get into this question. First off, Xavier Worthy ran about 75% of routes as a rookie. That was his route participation. The year before, Rashee Rice ran about 66% route participation. On most teams, quality starters get at a minimum 85%, 95%, somewhere in that range, unless you're like a Josh Downs kind of player who only plays in 3 receiver sets. You generally are on the field more than the Chiefs play their receivers, and especially their rookie receivers. So how much are we going to see Jalen Royals?
I don't think very much at all. I really don't.
Okay.
I know people are going to be bummed by that, but I think you're going to see a lot of Juju Smith-Schuster. I think you're going to see a lot of him. I mean, his best game was the game after Rashee Rice went down, right? He had like the 120 yards, whatever it was. I think you'll see a lot of Juju. I saw like a Nico Remigio. I think it's going to be Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster at wide receiver for the most part. You'll get a smattering of whether it's Nico, whether it's Jalen Royals. You'll probably see a lot of 12 personnel with Travis Kelce and Noah Gray. I don't expect to see much different. The Royals slow play rookies time after time after time. It doesn't matter how good you are, how good you look in the preseason, how good you look in training camp. They're going to ease you in. I mean, Rashee Rice, he looked amazing early on as a rookie, and they still said, hey, we're not going to – they needed him. They still said, hey, we're going to wait a little bit. Xavier Worthy, kind of the same thing. We need you, but we're still going to wait a little bit before we really take the reins off you. So, I'm not expecting much Jalen Royals personally. Maybe that bums people out. Maybe I'm being a Debbie Downer. I'm trying to be a realist and bring you what I think is the truth, and that probably is a lot more Juju Smith-Schuster than people are probably wanting or expecting.
Those Andy Reid training wheels are a real phenomenon. We've seen it with a couple of very good players. And if you think about Worthy, he had the first round draft capital. Rashee Rice had top 60. I think he was the 55th pack. Those are a real phenomenon. We've seen it with a couple of very good players. And if you think about Worthy, he had the first round draft capital. Rashee Rice had top 60. I think he was the 55th pick. He had higher draft capital by significant. He knows how to play this role. I think the counterpoint to that would be, isn't this why they drafted Jalen Royals, who has the same 10-yard split in like elite 10-yard split, and kind of even when you look at the two, it's like as high as it gets. It's like Michael Thomas era slant boy kind of stuff. Worthy, on the other hand, is layups and long balls. You see him win on a lot of flat routes. Flat routes don't really work for a lot of players, but Xavier Worthy is so fast that they can kind of just dump it out there, and he can, like Tyreek Hill, he can get 3 or 4 yards that no other player on earth could get just because he's that damn fast. And then you have corners, post, and nines, those routes that Rashee Rice doesn't really run all that much. So despite the differences in how they win, could this Rashee Rice-sized hole in the offense actually help Xavier Worthy's sophomore year?
Yes, because I think it helped him grow a lot last year. I thought that was the silver lining of Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown being injured last year, where if you're trying to make a negative into a positive, it was that we got to see Xavier Worthy get a lot larger snap count share, and I think even just positional growth than we would have seen otherwise. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that I think that'll expand even a little more this year. But Hollywood Brown, I think, can fit a little bit of that role, because I think his underneath routes of Hollywood are going to be impactful. I keep going back to Juju, and I know people might not dig it, and I've seen, Bumpa, that's always good. Juju wide receiver 3 when he doesn't have functional knees isn't going to be fun to watch. I get that thought process, but they brought him back for a reason. We talked, he's not the most explosive guy, but I think in a smaller, kind of like he was last year, he had no drops. He's trustworthy. They know where he's going to be. And I do think having Hollywood back, even with Rice out for the first few weeks, I think having Hollywood there is going to make the offense look a little more explosive. Having, Xavier Worthy another year in the offense is going to look a little more explosive. So, yes, Juju's not going to be the sexiest, most explosive dude out there, but I think he can be fine in that role. And yeah, I guess to your point, though, I do think Worthy will get a little larger snap count share in the first 4 to 6, however long he's suspended weeks before Rice gets back.
The bummer about Rice being out is I think his presence was really going to, his presence underneath on those slants and digs, that would really open up the deep ball for Xavier Worthy and to a lesser extent, Hollywood Brown. So the onus is going to be on Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster and the running game to help open up the long ball. And hopefully this will give Xavier Worthy more targets. Like, I think his target share will be much bigger. Like, I don't know. I think with Rashee Rice, you're looking at a guy that's going to get probably half a dozen touches a game. Without Rashee Rice, probably more like 10. And does that help expedite the downfield chemistry that we saw struggle between Patrick Mahomes and Xavier Worthy last year? I just hope they can get on the same page.
Yeah, agreed.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
Number 4, we're always looking for the silver lining. So Rashee Rice injured his lateral collateral ligament on September 29th, 2024. It was kind of a mysterious deal. They were trying to figure out what was going on with the knee. So he didn't have surgery until a couple weeks later on October 14th. So this suspension should actually give him a full year to recuperate. My question to you, Sterling, will the layover actually be a good thing for Rashee Rice's knee injury recovery?
It's fine. I actually wasn't too worried about that. He's looked fine. We've heard nothing but positives in regard to his knee. I want to say yes, because then I can look at it from a positive perspective. I think he was ready to go. I once you're ready, you're ready. I get what you're saying, but he can't be around the team. He can still be at training camp, even if everything comes down, if I'm not mistaken. So even if he gets suspended the first 4 to 6 weeks, I think he can still play or still do training camp and maybe even the preseason. I forget some of the rules. There's some wonkiness there to where it's like he has to be gone by like the Saturday before the game 1 or whatever it is. And then he can't be around the team. I don't know why they have these weird rules, but you can still do training camp though. That's totally fine. So we'll find out. But no, I think he was ready to go.
I actually think he can play in the preseason games. I'd have to double check that, but I'm kind of thinking you're right on that. He is ahead of schedule. I think he looks fantastic. I know he's been working his ass off and the Chiefs feel really good about him, but apparently the optimal timeline for this recovery is a year. So this gives him a full year. I don't see it doing any harm. Now you'd love to have him, but if this gets him a little healthier for the stretch run, the player whose health I'm a little bit more worried about because of this is I'm worried that they're going to milk Travis Kelce coming out of the gate, that they're like, Travis Kelce, we're going to need you without Rashee Rice to be a 10 target a game guy. And I don't really want Travis Kelce to be that, at least into the playoffs. And if you saw the splits with Rashee Rice and without Rashee Rice for Travis Kelce last year, he was not getting targeted very much in those first 3 games. And then number 4 gets hurt, and number 87 is just the first look, the second look, the third look for Patrick Mahomes. So that would be probably my actual bigger concern about durability.
Yeah, we've talked about it. I think the offense last year was going to be funneled through Rice, and this is going to be the first year where Kelce was actually the secondary or tertiary secondary target. And we got injured. It's back to Kelce being the primary guy. I don't think we would have talked about his weight or his in shapeness as much. I don't think it would have mattered if it was Rice being number 1. I think you would still see a solid Kelce. Kelce is in a lot better shape. He's mentioned he noted it, and you see the pictures. It's true. But yeah, you're going to have to see a heavier workload on Kelce early this year.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
So whenever the Chiefs have their wide receiver room thinning out a little bit, fans naturally speculate and start kind of getting thirsty for like bigger veteran names. And now that Rashee Rice is getting suspended, the other big news we heard this week is Justin Ross, fan favorite Justin Ross, has been released. I guess he asked for his release. Sky Moore, we know that era is over. McCole Hardman and Justin Watson are gone. So people are clamoring for Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Gabe Davis, those kind of guys. Real quickly, the 2024 yards per route run numbers for those guys. Cooper was at 1.46 Allen was at 1.36, Davis 0.95. Davis's number is like atrocious. But you really, a really good player is going to be above 2 in that metric. It's a pretty important metric for receivers. There's no excuse for Cooper and Davis, but Keenan Allen's offense in Chicago, DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, who I think are good players, they also posted pedestrian numbers. So maybe Keenan Allen. My question to you, should the Chiefs sign a vet receiver like Keenan Allen, or should they stick with what they've got?
First and foremost, Gabe Davis is a hard no. I know everyone's going to be mesmerized by that playoff game against Kansas City, but there's a reason why his market was the way it was and why the Jags had already said, no, it's not going to happen. Of these three, I would be the most intrigued by Keenan Allen. I think he fits that Rashee Rice mold better than the other two guys by a wide margin. Gabe Davis at this point, you have Hollywood and Xavier Worthy. I don't see him really getting on the field. Amari Cooper, the Chiefs don't operate with that style of player very often, and we saw him take a massive step back last year. Keenan Allen is one of those guys that I find intriguing. The issue you run into is if it's 2 or 4 games, now you spent big money on a guy who might not play. 6 games to 8 games, well, now we're talking a little different situation and scenario there. I don't know what the Chiefs will do. I don't know what his market's going to look like. I think Keenan Allen is a guy I would love in Kansas City. The issue is, are you going to pay that much money for when Rice does come back for a guy who is a part-time player who not going to play the Worthy role? Maybe if you don't like what you're seeing with Hollywood Brown, then you can move Hollywood to the wide receiver 4. I just, at some point, it's like, it's not Madden. So how are the Chiefs actually going to operate?
I think a good comp is DeAndre Hopkins got $5 million for 1 year from the Baltimore Ravens. So that's probably ballpark for Keenan Allen at this point in his career. If you look at Keenan Allen, you see a less creaky, but still creaky version of Juju Smith-Schuster. He's big, he's smart, he knows how to get open at will. Not an extreme separator, but he's going to find the holes. I think he'd be a good fit, especially if he wants to come here, blend in, be a team player, and stick it to his former team, the Chargers. But actually, with Mike Williams retiring, I think he's more likely to end up a Charger than a Chief.
Yeah, or Amari Cooper.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
To the Chargers for Mike Williams' role.
I think, just very quick side tangent, Amari Cooper, you said he's not the Chiefs kind of player. He is a Dak Prescott kind of receiver. He needs a guy who's going to throw the ball to him when he's not open.
Yeah.
A George Pickens type. That is not Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes can make any throw. He is not going to throw to a guy that he thinks is blanketed. That's never been his style. That's not the way Andy Reid wants to do things. So I just think that's a non-starter, that kind of player for future reference. Number 6, we've talked about Hollywood Brown. He has only played 16 full games once, and that was in 2021. He's averaging 8.3 starts per year his past 3 seasons. Of course, last year brought that number down significantly. So Sterling, Hollywood Brown just became even more important. Can his body hold up?
Yeah, I think it's a little unfair to maybe unfair is not the right word, but I do think it obviously skews so much when he didn't play a single game last year. I think if you get 14 games,
he played two. I
guess at the very end, yeah. But for me, I'm sitting here going, if he plays 14 games in the regular season or 13 games, I think you would take that. I'm not maybe I should, but I don't know if I'm expecting all 17. I'm expecting 13 to 14 games, and what you're hoping is early in the year, that means he stays healthy the first 4 to 6. You need those. You need those with Rashee Rice out, because as the season goes on, and let's say he misses a game or 2 week 13, 14, well, you're hoping at that point Jalen Royals has understood the playbook and the Chiefs trust him by then. Then, yeah, it's not great to have Hollywood Brown out, but at least you have a guy that you think can fill that role a little better in Jalen Royals. But if it happens early in the year, then it makes the Chiefs maybe needing or trying to go get another proven commodity more important. My concern is the Chiefs just decide it's a 4 or 6 game suspension. Let's say they plan on 4. They don't bring anyone in. And they go with, I hate saying it, don't be mad at me, Sky Moore in that role. I'm not saying he's going to get a lot of snaps, but would it shock me now if he's on the team for the first few games? At this point, now it would not. Now I would not be shocked. I would have been, because they're not keeping 7. But Remigio's your special teamer, and I don't know if they really trust him getting a lot of actual snaps. I don't really think they trust Sky Moore, but that'd be my concern, dude.
This is where Brett Veach has to step in and save Andy Reid from himself. We know Brett Veach is beyond frustrated with Sky Moore. We saw him like break the laptop or whatever in his box last year. And Andy Reid's maybe greatest strength and greatest weakness is his excessive loyalty. He's a very loyal guy, and sometimes it pays dividends, both in games when guys make mistakes and over the course of their career. But sometimes with guys like Sky Moore, he sticks with them too long. I mean, the story's been written. It's not going to happen for Sky in Kansas City. I think they should just let him move on and see if he can figure himself out elsewhere. I'm putting the over-under in Hollywood Brown. If he gets 10 games or over, I'm happy. If he gets 500 yards or over, I'm happy. My expectations are not
Kansas City.
Are not crazy for him. Number 7. So got to compare Trey Smith and Joe Thuney. Now, I heard you guys talking about that on Tuesday with Briscoe. I think this is a fascinating conversation. Trey Smith is almost 7 years younger, like 6.5. So Joe Thuney is 32. And I think he might be at the age cliff. I think people are expecting him to definitely continue this level of play. But I dug in a little bit, and there was an interesting analysis on Reddit in 2023 that used data from 5 seasons of PFF grading data. And they found that fewer than 10% of top 10 graded NFL guards remain elite past the age of 31. So I'm kind of expecting a Joe Thuney fall off any moment. But my question to you is, did the Chiefs do the right thing choosing Trey Smith over Joe Thuney at guard?
I have basically said, and I'll be on record of saying it, is only if Trey Smith gets another contract after this one. Because my thought process right now is that's basically a 3-year deal. You look at the guarantees, almost all contracts that final year is funny money, or it's not guaranteed and the team can walk. And maybe the Chiefs don't, but that last year you're always, we want a new contract. Look at Trey Hendrickson out there in Cincinnati. And maybe it's a little different because you're a guard. You don't quite have that sort of power. These next 3 years are very important because I'm comparing Joe Thuney to Trey Smith hard. It's not just that Trey Smith has to be as good as Joe Thuney. It's that Joe Thuney is $6 million cheaper than Trey Smith, right? That's a pretty good amount of money that could be spent elsewhere. That's a good running back. That is Drew Tranquill. That's Hollywood Brown-ish, right? That's what we're talking about now. I am nervous about this to an extent. I'm glad that they brought him back. I love Trey Smith. I'm not saying that he can't do it. But this is a lot of money for a guard. And this is a guy who's going to have to continue to progress. And it's not all his fault. But we've not seen a ton of progression with guys under Andy Heck recently, right? On the offense. So that's a little bit of my concern.
I think he played his probably his best season at times last year, especially in the passing game. I know he's a little up and down there, but I just look at Trey Smith and at 26 years old and see an unfinished product. I think he's someone who's not even in his prime yet. He could be a year or two away from his prime because he still is at the top of his peak physically, and he's learning these things that offensive linemen have to, kind of the knowledge they have to accumulate over their tenure. And then Joe Thuney, maybe he defies the odds, but he's at the cliff, man.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
let's follow up on that by looking at Trey Smith's place among guards, where he ranks among guards. So a couple of notes here. ESPN's NFL personnel poll, which I don't know if you guys saw that. A lot of Chiefs did well there. Creed Humphrey was number one. Patrick Mahomes is number one. Trent McDuffie, top four. But they had him as the fourth interior lineman, not the fourth guard, the fourth interior lineman behind only Creed Humphrey, Tyler Smith, and Quentin Nelson. Trench Warfare's Brandon Thorne. In my opinion, he is at the center of the Venn diagram when it comes to offensive line for knowledge and obsession. I think he's the best in the business. He's very similar to what Matt Harmon does with reception perception. He has him as the number 2 right guard. And then PFF ranks him 7th among guards. So I think he's in the mix with Tyler Smith, Quentin Nelson, Quinn Miners from the Broncos, Landon Dickerson, Joe Thuney, and Chris Lindstrom. Sterling, though, where do you think he ranks among NFL guards?
So this was actually eye-opening to me. The Nick Bolton one was also interesting from the ESPN side of thing with the personnel around the NFL of where people viewed Nick Bolton. I thought Trey Smith was also a little eye-opening as well. My thought was this after dissecting it more and really trying to dive into this. Trey Smith might just be that good. He might be the best right guard or second best guard in all of football, right guard. But he also might not be the best fit in Kansas City. Both things can be true. He is a run-blocking savant. That is where he thrives. It's why Chris Lindstrom works so well in Atlanta, right? He's graded out as the best run blocker in pretty much all of football. Well, it helps because that's a run-first offense. If Trey Smith was in San Francisco, well, maybe he even looks better than he does in Kansas City. I mean, Trey Smith looks really, really damn good in KC, but we always have our complaints of occasionally he holds and occasionally his pass pro is not quite up to snuff with what Joe Thuney was. That's why I was almost like, yeah, Joe Thuney might not be, or it might be even equal to Trey Smith, but Joe Thuney's value and strengths better fit this Chiefs offense, if that makes sense. It's like a running back. It's just schematics. A lot of times it's, well, they run duo or they run outside zone. Well, if you run something that you don't typically, or maybe not your strength, you're not going to look as good, right? It's just fact. It's football. It's scheme. It's personnel. So that was maybe a little eye-opening to me of maybe we're undervaluing some of what Trey Smith does in Kansas City, but also it might be he might not be the best schematic fit here in Kansas City.
I can see that. It's also, I heard you mention the other day, like the running game hasn't been good, or at least it wasn't good last year. Well, that's because they haven't committed to good running backs. I think Isaiah Pacheco was a slightly above average running back before injuries maybe took their toll. He can get back there, possibly. I'm not saying he can't. I'm also not betting on it. Elijah Mitchell, Rashad Smith, we haven't seen these guys do it yet in Kansas City. We haven't seen Elijah Mitchell stay healthy. Kareem Hunt, he's basically a short down conversion back and kind of a spare tire or an emergency, break glass in case of emergency type player. So if they're not going to commit to a good running back, can you really use Trey Smith optimally? The last thing I'll say here, and we're about to run out of time, so I'm going to go just a bit over because I think this is important. And that's that 2-1
Kansas City.
I believe there's a disconnect often between the way NFL media sees players and the league sees players. And I think it happens quite a bit. If you think about Trey Smith, he is a tone setter. He is a tough son of a bitch. He comes out there and makes the other team feel it. Coaches and scouts and general managers and people that work in actual, for franchises, they're going to love that. That doesn't really, we don't feel that as much watching from our couch. And I don't think we probably respect that as much. But Trey Smith is the guy that comes out and sets the tone physically, maybe more than anybody on the team for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that has value.
Real quick, and a good call. That was my whole entire thing with guys like Nick Bolton and Justin Reed, specifically for a long time, was with Justin Reed, was he was the tone setter. He was the defensive leader, right? And that sometimes doesn't always show up in the stats or even maybe the eye test. John says he plays next to one of the worst right tackles in the NFL. My thought is also Jawaan Taylor has this massive drop step backwards, which leaves a lot of space on the right side, especially on passing downs, right? That makes Trey Smith's job so much more difficult. You look at someone like Jalen Moore when he was in San Fran. Now that's a left tackle, right? He almost gets up in the dude's grill. Pass pro or not, he is sliding almost directly like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, right? He's not going while Jawaan Taylor's dropping back at like 5 o'clock, right? Like he's going so far back. That's a lot of pressure on your right guard. So I do think there's something there. I don't know if I want to say one of the worst right tackles in the NFL based on contract. I think the answer is yes, because my thought when Jawaan Taylor got signed in Kansas City, I feel like I'm vindicated on that one now. But I think it's a good point in something, and it's kind of more or less my thought process when it came to Trey Smith and the scheme. And yes, that also includes people around him.
The counterpoint there would be that he plays next to, I think, now that Frank Ragnow and Jason Kelce have retired, easily the best center in the league. So if you're gonna dock him for playing next to Jawaan Taylor, you have to say, well, sometimes he gets double help from Creed Humphrey. So that kind of goes both ways. It's really hard to figure out, but obviously tackle in the grand scheme of things more important than center. Number 9, the Chiefs now have the highest paid center and guard in the league. How much financial pressure does that put on the Josh Simmons pick to hit?
A ton. You have to believe in Josh Simmons and Kingsley Sumatia, by the way. You have to have full faith in your conviction that those two guys, but especially Josh Simmons, is the answer. Because if not, oh my goodness, that is scary. If Josh Simmons does not pan out, and now you have all that money in your center and right guard, and now you don't have a right tackle, a left tackle, the two most expensive and maybe most important spots on the offensive line on your team. Wow. I mean, that would be terrifying. You don't have the resources to spend then, and that would also probably mean no McDuffie, no Karlaftis, no Rashee Rice going for it, because you'd have to spend resources there. This probably tells me they really believe in Josh Simmons. This has to be a stamp of approval that Josh Simmons they see as the future left tackle. And also that means, in my opinion at least, they believe, not just words, but they have to believe that either Caliendo, Kingsley Sumatia, or a guy they have under contract, maybe it's Norzad, is the answer at left guard. Has to be. Because right tackle is still a question mark. Because even after this year, the thought process is Jalen Moore has 1 year at right tackle, and then you have no idea who's your right tackle. So, to me, yeah, and as I say, no Joe Thuney to play left tackle if something were to happen. Yeah, you don't have an emergency plan now. You have Jalen Moore. Maybe it'd be Wanya Morris, I guess, for a game, if that's your emergency. But this, to me, is a stamp of approval of Josh Simmons.
It is a vote of confidence. I think it speaks volumes. Also, I think we have to give the Chiefs the benefit of the doubt here. They have been very good with their succession plans. Other teams have not. I think that's hurt the Buffalo Bills. But if you look at Frank Clark to George Karlaftis, if you look at Charvarius Ward to L'Jarius Sneed to Trent McDuffie, if you look at how they refilled the receiving room just by taking shots over and over again post Tyreek Hill and landing Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. Jaden Hicks and Justin Reed is another example. The Chiefs have been doing work in the draft. I think Josh Simmons, everything we're hearing about him, it sounds like he is set up to be, health permitting, the steal of the draft. And it sounds like he's like Rashee Rice, ahead of schedule. I'm very excited about him. I think that Kingsley Sumatia, we'll get to him in a moment, that position, and then what the hell they're going to do at right tackle long term are a little bit more concerning to me. But we'll get to those things right now.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
You're muted. I don't know how you muted yourself that quick. That was impressive.
Because I had to clear my throat. That was my bad.
Okay, DJ Cool.
I mean, it's Chiefs royalty right there. I think of Super Bowl 54 every time I hear that song. So great memories, great call. So Kansas City can save $20 million next year by cutting Jawaan Taylor. Taylor's 2026 dead cap is only $7.4 million. Brandon Thorne didn't have Taylor in his top 15 right tackles. That is brutal. So I'm just gonna kind of suggest, for the sake of this question, that he is out of their long-term plans next season. So Sterling, can the Chiefs get relatively cheap starting seasons with average or above average performance from guard Kingsley Suamataia and tackle Jalen Moore? Not just this season, but next season, and for Suamataia beyond.
Yeah, so Brett Veach, fairly upfront, he said it without saying it. But going into this year, they go, we're looking at the tail end of Jawaan Taylor's contract. He has 2 years left, technically, under contract. He said this year it's the tail end of it. So that tells you pretty much what you need to know. Barring him looking like a all-pro this year, Jawaan Taylor is not going to be a Chief next year. Financially, he would have to look like the best right tackle in football financially for it to even make sense. Right now, I'm not even talking. $27 million. Yeah, I'm not even talking like he if he looks like a Pro Bowler, like top 10 or top 5, if he's 4 to 6 best right tackle in football, it's not going to be good enough because of the money that's going to be owed to him next year and what you've done with Trey and with Creed. So, barring him looking like the best right tackle in football, he will be out. Jalen Moore is the plan, in my opinion, at right tackle in 2026 next year. I think Jalen Moore is going to look like a really good player. I've been on record. I like his fit. I like what he can do. I think the run game is going to help. I think it's going to help Trey Smith a ton with him on the right side. Again, stylistically, I think Trey Smith and Jalen Moore can play well together because, like I mentioned, he doesn't have that huge, massive drop step back. It's going to take a little getting used to because we've heard a lot of players talk about Mahomes is different. He does take a lot deeper steps, which means you have to get back a little quicker than other quarterbacks. So that does play a part. End of the day, I think the Chiefs can get good production from Moore, and I am excited about Kingsley Suamataia. He might fit better at a guard, maybe less noticeable, and maybe he can get out of his head a little bit. Like I think that was the big issue at left tackle last year.
You're so right about Jawaan Taylor because at that price tag, it has to be Lane Johnson, Penei Sewell, and then him. Like if he is not right behind those guys, you can't afford to pay him $27 million a year. That they were projecting him to build on the last season he had in Jacksonville, where he looked like a rising star, and he hasn't even lived up to that level. He has regressed as a player. He's the most penalized player in the NFL. I think he's had a very frustrating tenure. I think it's so early in the Kingsley Suamataia project that we still have to hold on to hope. I mean, maybe he was miscast as a tackle because of the raw physical tools, and maybe he just doesn't have the feet or whatever to play left tackle.
Kansas City.
And then the last thing I'll say about Jalen Moore, I forget how much he's played on the left side versus the right, but it's not always as simple as you can just like flip the image like a photo and it's basically the exact same thing. That translation can be a little bit more difficult, but the hope, I think, is that Jalen Moore, if Josh Simmons can seize this job and that knee is indeed right, he will be one of the best swing tackles in the NFL. And if Jawaan Taylor continues to struggle out there, well, they can give him the hook and perhaps get him an early look as their right tackle of 2026. And really, that would be ideal because then you'd have continuity. You'd have Simmons, Suamataia, Humphrey, Smith, and Moore playing a season and change together. And that's really when offensive lines do their best work, is when they have that continuity. Let's get you guys out of here with our final segment. What's spinning? Sterling, what are you listening to? Red
Clay Strays. Listen to them. I actually saw someone post in here last week about Red Clay Strays. I love Red Clay Strays. They're very, very talented, very good. Check them out. You'll dig it. I don't think I've had anyone listen to them and be like, yeah, I don't like that. So if you want to listen to a good band, Red Clay Strays.
Red Clay Strays. It's a bit of a tongue twister. I like it. I usually try to mix it up. And if I go rap one week, it's rock or jazz or whatever, but I'm going to go rap again. Freddie Gibbs, one of my guys, just came out with a single called 1995. It is from the forthcoming album, Alfredo 2. Alfredo 1 was a really awesome kind of inspired album he did with the producer Alchemist, kind of a concept album. I don't know if it's been 5 or 6 years, but if you haven't heard that and you like rap, check it out. I'm a big fan. He's from the heartland. He's from Indiana, so we gotta kind of vouch for those guys. But that's all we've got for you guys today. That closes out an eventful week in Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks to the chat. You always keep us alert and awake here on these Friday afternoons. If you dig Arrowhead Addict, here's how you can help our community grow. First off, subscribe on YouTube. That way you never miss a show, a short, anything we're doing here. And if you're an audio listener, either on Spotify or Apple, please consider giving us a 5-star review. That really helps us with the algorithm. It allows new listeners to discover us on those platforms. And if you do that on Apple and leave a question, we'll even answer it here on the show on Patrick Allen's Thursday OG Hour. Last of all, check out the mothership, Matt Connor and the gang over at arrowheadaddict.com. They will keep you in the know. Join us live next Friday at 3 p.m. Central right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. Until then, go Chiefs.